So governance, you've got employees are going to be using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or whatever their favorite AI bot, even Grok, because it answers questions for them. People are finding it very comforting. They can go into AI, they can ask questions they're scared to ask other people, and they get answers that are favorable, but they're variable. And so if you've got your employees using multiple chat engines, they're going to get different replies. They're going to get necessarily the incorrect replies. They're going to get hallucinations. So you need to make sure you've got governance in place at a basic level to understand what your employees are doing and guiding your employees on how to use your AI tools within a work environment. There are a few people who are posting out prompts now on Reddit and various other threads of how to actually find out information what other people are posting, what other things cross transfer. So AI aren't necessarily inert. Every question changes some of that memory, some of that context. Some manufacturers are taking that feedback, the chat history, they're piling it back into the LLMs and they're training them on that answers as well. So at some point, somewhere in the system is a verbatim copy of that conversation if they are using your data to train their model. And there are ways of retrieving those things, and people are working out prompts to get it because it's a phenomenal IP space and people want to exploit it. To get governance in place, it does take time. And the most important thing is you need direction from the owner and the CEO of the company. It needs to be driven from the top down, but it also needs to be grassroots as well, that you need to make sure that people understand why we're doing it. So when you're setting up your committee, now the committee is always a fun one. You need to have some people who are going to set decisions and make decisions about what AI is. At the executive level, you need to understand, what is AI to us? How do we want to use it? What are we intending to do with it? And so get your AI committee, or get your CEO committee, and get some feedback from some of the lower level people who are using it. Identify people using AI currently who seem to be knowledgeable. Bring them in, ask them the types of questions they have. Go join local AI meetup groups and ask questions there. There's a very good one in BC called Van AI, or BC Plus AI, run by Chris Krug. And that's a fantastic eclectic group of people who are discussing the cutting edge of AI. And it's amazing, those discussions. You go every month. There's about 4 or 5 meetings every month, but they do discussion. They talk about these sort of problems. What are we going to encounter? Where is it going? What are we trying to do with it? And if the executive don't understand what they're trying to do with AI, the AI program will fail. So the executives need to set the compass of where we want to go. They also need to understand that compass is only a guidance. It's not a definitive path. AI will change. The direction you're looking in may change, but you need to be responsive. So make sure your governance committee is set up well, that it's dynamic, that it's got the power to be able to set and influence the rest of the organization. The next thing is, what is governance? Really, it's just seeing what you're doing. It's having the authority to make decisions about it, and it's being accountable for those decisions. So we have the executive committee in place, setting the direction, setting the ideas, setting the tone of how we're going to use AI, and then delegating that accountability down into the team so they can deliver, and giving them the authority to make decisions that follow that North Star, and then having a means to actually track back and see what you're doing. You have governance. You don't necessarily need to have data stewards. You don't necessarily need to have full committee fold down, full committee procedures. You just need to know who is accountable, who has the authority to make a decision, and how do I see whether that decision has an impact on the organization. So if you've got those 3 things, you have governance. And that's the simple way of doing it. And this is when, going with Usman's question earlier on, make sure you track those 3 things: accountability, authority, and visibility, and make sure you assign those clearly with insight and with follow-up to various members of your organization, and give them the space to develop and work on how to use AI properly. Yeah. So then we go on to who has the authority. So the authority bit is important. You need to know who is making those decisions, who is making budget allocation. And again, we're doing this class. You need to make sure that as a committee, what are we doing? Where is our direction? It's the entire organization. You want to basically have the executive board setting the AI direction. For big vendors, I wouldn't necessarily engage vendors straight off the bat, but be aware of what vendors do what. There are small consultancy firms that can do some very good help. There are also large consultancy firms that can do some very expensive help. They're all useful in their own way. and there are also vendor firms who are producing lots of AI enhanced tooling. You need to understand and have a way of selecting those vendors so you know the risks and you know how to select them. Again, this is at the executive level. You need to set that direction of how we choose our various types of vendors. So define the types of vendors you need for AI. So support through to consultancy, to guidance, through to product delivery, through to product implementation, through to training or whatever. Make sure you got guidelines in place about how you're going to select those vendors. The use cases are the next one. What are we going to use AI for? I'm working for one company at the moment. We are trying to set a set of use cases. We go round around the shops on how to actually select the use cases. We're not quite sure quite what we want to do. We don't want to impact the customer. We don't want to impact the business too much, but we only know we need to actually roll out various initiatives. And so in discussions, it's trying to work out what are clear, good quality use cases. In my previous day one seminar, I talked extensively about your types of use case and use case selection. So if you want to find out information, refer back to that day one seminar. And then budget allocation. AI costs money. My own personal budget for AI is roughly about $150 to $200 a week in tokens. And that is developing various applications for me. It's building out various frameworks. It's building out various orchestrations. From a corporate level, you can talk thousands of dollars a week or thousands of dollars a month, depending what you want to do, depending who you're using. So again, allocate how much do you want to spend on this bet? How much do you want to put forward to working on AI? What are the step up increments? So if we achieve X, how much can we increase the budget by? So plan what you're going to do based on those outcomes. So do a very quick high level thumb in the air. We're going to give 2,000 to it for the next 2 months. We'll dedicate a team of 2 people to work out some POCs, but we'll do a step up on success and we'll treble that budget. We'll bring the team up to 5. And we make sure that's communicated to that team who are doing that work so they know that when that goal is met or missed, there is a way of actually moving on and working out what you do for the next step. So when you're doing your planning, make sure you've got gates in there, make sure you have the ability to gate and change direction as well. Because as AI goes, I mean, if you look at the current situation with Grok, they're trying to take Grok down because of what it's being used for on X. And yeah, it's being misused, it's being misaligned, but it's destroying a tool that potentially could be useful. But it's also, again, it's being misused. And so be prepared. Your engine, your LLM of choice may be taken down. It may disappear. Claude did a massive rewrite of how they accept users this week, and they changed the way that third-party vendors connect to Claude. So OpenAI have basically jumped in and said, we don't do that. We're going to give full support. But you have to remember that OpenAI are going to use your prompts to train, and other systems are going to use, like Claude doesn't use your prompts to train. You can exclude yourself. But OpenAI will use your prompts to train future models. So you've got to work out, is that a risk worth taking? So there's swings and balances on how you do it. Your security architecture, what are you going to do about how you're going to protect your IP? What are you going to allow people to upload to these AI? If you use something like Copilot and you have a Microsoft license, you are covered under that IP constraint of that license. I mean, Copilot, as far as I can see, is probably one of the more IP sensitive AI engines there is, except for self-hosting. But if you're going to self-host, you then got to pay for GPU cost, you got to pay for cloud cost, you got to pay for infrastructure costs if you want to host on-prem. But again, manufacturers are producing tools to do that. So Lenovo have just produced a LLM in a box tool. So a $5,000 computer, run a 300 billion parameter model that you can run on your own prem. And so if you want to be a home hobbyist or you want to be a small firm or you want to be a large enterprise, you can set up a very cheap for sober farm, $5,000 a pop, and you got one model per box. And then you're just paying cost and support for that infrastructure. And then you got your deployment. How are you going to deploy these agents out into the organization? So get your enterprise architect involved in that, get your solution architect, get your technical team involved. Is how do we roll this deployment into production? Are we going to use Teams as an interface? Are we going to use different chat interfaces? Are we going to interface it with Slack and have a Slack bot that people can send requests in? Or we're going to have a formal portal where people go to a site, they type in that request on our formal portal, and then the files are managed that way? Or are you going to use something like Salesforce, which has an AI environment built in? And so you've got Agentforce, which actually does a really good job at isolating and protecting your PI data. So lots of questions, lots of things to do with governance, but make sure you have the basics of government, which is basically your visibility, your authority, and your accountability. So let's look at this. And when you're actually running your governance program, what levels, when do you need to actually bring that committee in place? I would recommend meeting on a very good cadence. Make sure you got a good cadence to keep the momentum going. Ideally, at board level, do it quarterly to make sure you're setting the direction, the compass for where you want with your AI project. You got your feedback. You want to have tactical reviews and say, are we meeting our goals? Are we aligning to the compass? What are our blockings? What do we need? Do we need to bring more people in? Do we need to change the use cases? Make sure you have those on a monthly basis so you at least got a definite check-in, and make sure the use cases are understood, people are writing them up well, they're reviewing the risks, and they're making sure that the vendors, if we're using them or you're using them, are actually engaged as well in those tactical reviews. And then the last bit is, if something happens, who do you need to get involved and how do you escalate up to make a decision? So let's say you've got an AI engine going out and someone uploads your internal ledger to the AI engine to do some time series analysis, because I heard that AI does some very good time series analysis using certain tools. And they upload your entire account system into an AI engine to do processing, and it's a public AI. How do you remediate that? You need to have an immediate response to it. So as part of your security, of your SOC 2 or various other, your control, your PI control systems, engage your security people so that they have their alerts in place. So when these systems are exfiltrated out of the system, you have a way of capturing it, hopefully preventing it happening in the first place, but at least you have a way of responding and working out what is our exposure. And for larger corporations, it's more important. For small corporations, it could be overhead, but make sure you understand where your PI is. Make sure you know where your personal information is, and make sure your employees who are using AI are trained well enough that they understand it.